Hello, today I'm joined by Alex Campbell. He is the area director for the core of Kansas City Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Super excited to have him with me today. Alex, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me. It's a pleasure to have some good, genuine conversation with my brother.
Yeah, of course, of course. And genuine conversation is what we're looking to do, and we're going to touch on a lot of different things. And so, just briefly touch on your current role with FCA and previous career experience you have.
Yeah, right now I'm serving as the area director, and that's right here in the core of Kansas City. The area of the core stretches east as far as Independence, west to Wyandotte, and then from the river north down south to Belton. We stop right at the Grandview area. And my job mainly is staffing the area and making sure that we through raising up a board and getting some staff and donors to come on team with that. So, just when you culminate all of that together, bring all of that, we go about developing a ministry in the core of Kansas City.
Love it. And how did you initially get started with FCA?
Man, it all kicked off for me in 2009 when I got exposed to the FCA ministry through a camp in college. And I think from that camp was the first time that I realized that you can combine faith and athletics in the way that FCA did. And it was pretty cool. But that was my first concept of a sports ministry
Yeah.
from church. I think it would have been cool getting connected with that, but that was the first time I got exposed to FCA.
Awesome. And so you obviously have athletic experience with FCA. What sports did you play? What did your athletic career entail?
Okay, let's see. I played ice hockey, and
Nice.
no, just kidding.
I didn't know that. Oh, got me.
Yeah, no, I did. I did back when I was really, really young. I still have a scar to prove it. But no,
Hey, that's awesome.
football and track were my main sports. I
Okay.
did it. I carried that all the way through college and stuck with football.
Love it. What was your position?
I started off on defense at DB, and then I end up my coaches pressured. They end up getting me to play running back. So I finished college playing running back.
Love it. What's your claim to fame? What's the moment that you would say is the pinnacle of your career?
Man, I still take it back to high school. Being able to lay the wood, man, it's just it was something about playing on defense where you just get to be free and roam around. And I think
Yeah.
one game I was able to get 4 interceptions and more than 6 sacks or something like that. But I was just
Man,
excited to be in that role.
that's awesome. I didn't play like competitive football at all, but I played plenty of backyard football, and playing defense was always the best thing, making picks and getting sacks. And I totally hear what you're saying there.
Yeah, high school you get the it's a lot more freedom in that, so you can play all positions, both sides of the ball. Yeah, the coaches, but once you got to college, it was way more structured.
Yeah, yeah, get that. And give us a snapshot of your family life.
Yeah, right now I've been married for going on 13 years. Yeah, 13 years going on, I think 14. Wow. Uh, yeah, to my wife Michelle. We met in high school back in 2007. We got married. Um, we adopted her 3 younger siblings in 2009 after her mom passed away. So we had an instant family in college.
Mm,
All the kids are adults now, well, young
yeah.
adults. So it's 3, 18, 20, and 23. 2 girls, 1 boy, the oldest. And that's our family dynamic right now, man.
Yeah. What jumps out to you as one thing you've learned as a parent?
Sacrifice and selflessness. When you think you've given enough, give more.
Mm,
So that's probably the takeaway that I've learned from being a parent.
yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so good. Can you think of like one example of when you've put that to practice?
Yeah, I remember I was training my oldest daughter, and she was getting ready for, I think it was softball at the time, and we were working out on the field. But her whole workout, when she was done, I realized that everything that I did on the field, she imitated, and and I didn't believe it. And when she told me she finished the workout, I didn't believe it, and so
Yeah.
I did another set afterwards and realized that she did another set, and I
Really?
didn't plan on her doing that extra set. So by the time she was running, I realized she was super tired. And I asked her, "What did she do?" She said, "I did everything you did." So that's when it kind of hit me that I was a living example
Mm,
for them, and she was imitating everything. So I just thought about, man, what other areas am I
yeah,
doing things that they're following? So I had to be really mindful of that.
yeah, absolutely. And I know like the ultimate goal as a parent is to have your kids empowered. And I know, within FCA, we talk about what does empowering look like. And there's that model, assist, watch, launch. And exactly like you said, you're modeling there and very much you're assisting. And then you even had the opportunity to watch because she was imitating what you were doing. And hopefully you launched her in a way that, I mean, I know a couple of your daughters are, going to the military and whatnot. And so now they're on the cusp of being launched, if not already. So they're out there doing their own thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so real quickly, would just love to touch on these big talk questions. I think often in today's culture, we don't stop and, like you said, have genuine conversation. We don't necessarily go deep very often. And these questions are meant to be intentional and just cut below the surface. And so I'm going to choose at random here. We'll see what we get and see what you get to answer. So we'll do a couple of them. First one is, what are you curious about lately?
I'm curious when we'll be able to kind of get off these restrictions, and you know what, I'm more curious about what the face-to-face interaction will be after going through over a year without having that face-to-face contact with people. Will people be hesitant to engage with one another? Because I'm
Hmm.
a real face-to-face. Um, I love that in-person contact. I think there's a lot of others that share that similar feeling, but I wonder, will there be some hesitation in getting back to those type of things?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely on my mind as well. It's a good
Yeah.
thing to be curious about. Next question. What are the first things you notice when meeting someone?
First thing I notice is probably the way they carry themselves. Confidence is something I think I pick up on the fastest. If someone's really um, strong in what they believe, and when they speak, everything flows from that. So the way they speak, what they choose to say, how transparent they are, usually flows from the confidence that's flowing within them. So if they're kind of low on that, you can pick up on it. There's nerves, there's all kind of signs, but when they're confident about something, you're not thinking, you're able to do it. It's almost like driving, it's second nature. So that's probably it.
Yeah. Hmm. That's really good. Any advice for people to find confidence? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, my wife's a poet, and one of her poems is talking about a chopping block, and it really reminds me of the crucifixion of Christ. And you literally put yourself on the chopping block, and as you begin to chop yourself into those pieces, and you're thinking about just crucifying your flesh, that would be my number one advice: is that self-examination. Um, if you're really honest with yourself, and you're okay with putting yourself on that piece of block and going through all of the places that you're uncomfortable with, you'll be able to thrive in being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Good. I love it. Love it. And now just to keep going, like I said, further below the surface, I love that quote that says, "You are what you repeatedly do." And so, I mean, honestly, when I look at you, I see a great man. And so I'm sure behind that, you have a lot of patterns and habits. And so just to start things off, what comes to mind when I ask you what drives you?
Drives me is the opportunity to influence um, identity.
Hmm.
That's my number one. I think purpose, passion in life is being able to get in touch with who you are, where you
Yeah.
come from, where you're going. Those kind of core questions of life that individuals, I believe, are successful in life when they ask themselves and engage in those type of questions. So anytime I'm engaged in any type of work, whether it's personal or business, it's always through the lens of, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? What do I hope to accomplish with that? And I'm driven in that, in everything, even in personal interactions. Um, it's almost that coach mentality
Yeah.
of, how can I help you and be of service to you in accomplishing your goal? So that's kind of what drives me and everything.
Love it. Yeah, so obviously you want to give to others, and it's awesome when we're able to be sharpened by other people. Can you think of a scenario where you've been sharpened by someone and maybe some advice you've received, or what's some good life advice that you've received before?
Ooh, man, I probably sound like a broken record when I say this, but I got this opportunity, in sports, you watch and you get your heroes on TV and you get to think about what would you do if you met them. For me, I had my coaches, I had my athletes that I put on that pedestal, and I got to meet Coach Tony Dungy,
Mm,
Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning coach. He coached my favorite players, Peyton Manning.
yeah.
And when we met for lunch, it was really unique because he was just so down to earth, and it
Yeah.
was everything that he seemed to be on TV. It wasn't anything that was different. But he said to me in that I took away, he said, Alex, make sure that you get pillars in your life. So every
Mm,
time I get the opportunity to share or speak to other people, I tell that story because he told me there's been some ups and downs in his life that if he didn't have strong pillars around him, and those pillars are representative of like strong accountability partners. So I literally went down and made a list
wow.
of 12 slots that I could fill with 12 men of God who can come around me and help me walk through life.
Oh my goodness, that's really good, and what an awesome opportunity. Obviously, there's seasons of life with those 12 people you have written down. How often do you get to come to the table with them and build relationship with them and hear insight and things like that?
Yeah, some strategically, it's some is quarterly,
Mhm.
some is once a month, but face to face right now has been kind of difficult with,
Yeah,
the pandemic and everything.
yeah,
But I did have the opportunity this past Christmas because some I get to travel and go see.
yeah.
Uh, and one of them is Dr. Hendricks back home in Jeff City, where I used to call that home when I used to uh, play football at Link University, and then that's where we lived at in Jeff City while we were attending school. And man, just connecting with him to see the way he leads his wife. He's been through
Mm,
some difficult. He lost his sister, and his wife is a survivor of cancer, and this happened all within the same time frame. But then, yet when I spent time with him, he still encouraged me and he lived through these experiences being a man that was having a lead in that. And so to challenge me, even in that season of life where he was at an all-time low, uh, really stood out to me.
yeah, that's big time. What a relationship to have. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is a daily routine you have?
Ooh, I'm a routine type of guy. I write down everything. I probably got too many of these around here. I go through 1,000. I don't know if that's great for the environment, but it's kind of my method. I like to write it down, pen it to paper.
Yeah.
Um, I start each day and I write down my goals for the day. I'm a big person that believes in write it down, make the vision plain. So what do I want to get accomplished down there? I believe if I say it, then write it down, and then I can
Hmm.
mark it off. I'm more
Hmm.
likely to complete it as opposed to allowing it to remain in my head. So that's one of my daily routines.
Yeah. Do you like scratch that paper, cross it out, or keep it so you can look back on it? How do you handle that?
Yeah, hopefully I can fill it up completely
Yeah.
with all the things so I can get all of that out of my head. It's surprising how much that we keep in our head. But I actually go through and I cross it out, and then if it leads to another day, then that'll normally lead me to get another sheet of paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my wife does have me to recycle, so I am recycling. She's on me about that.
And how about maybe something you don't do daily, but either weekly, monthly, or periodically that you think is a staple to just caring for yourself, building yourself up, sort of things?
Yeah, now monthly is my goal is to actively rest. And I used to think of rest in the form of lay on the couch and do nothing. Now I think about it completely differently, in the terms of I can actively engage in some strenuous activity, but it can be so rewarding to my mind, be rewarding to my mind that it gives me so much energy in life that I feel renewed in whatever I am going to go back into. So for me, let me give you an example of that.
Yeah.
That could be um, getting in the studio and making music, producing music. I had a music background, or that could be going to the gun range. Right now, I want to get into hunting, but
Yeah.
going to the gun range and shooting my guns. My wife likes to do that too, so we get to do that on some date nights. So
Yeah.
yeah,
What's the plan for getting into hunting? How are you going to do that?
I don't know. I have a few got a couple board members and supporters who are really big into hunting and have
Yeah.
challenged me on several occasions to let's take this thing to the next level. I think I've been the one holding it up and using the pandemic as an excuse. But
Uh,
I had the opportunity to go once. I think it was in Rockport, Missouri, and it was just being out in nature, more serene, that peaceful environment. Yeah, that's what kind of did it for me.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, keep me posted as you learn. I don't hunt myself, but would love to get into it. So keep me
Yeah, bro.
posted. What have you learned throughout the COVID season?
Ooh, I learned to pay more attention to the story of Joseph and what he said to Pharaoh. I kept thinking about if only because you got those 7 years, you got these years of drought and famine, then you have these years of surplus. And the majority of the time, I live life on the extreme side. So I'm either putting away things and so much so that it goes to waste, or I'm not putting things away enough. So I guess you would say like liken that to saving. But it made
Mhm.
me really focus on how am I preparing for a rough patch or a rough season, and if what do I have stored up? So that could be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, um, being scripturally sound. So when things like this happen, what's my scriptural foundation that I build off of, and then how do I share that with others? Physically, we weren't able to go to the gym. So what was my workout plan if I don't have access to a gym with all the amenities that come with it? Can I get down to the grassroots of push-ups and running? So it made me really focus on all the things that I'm blessed with that I can easily take for granted. So it's been convicting and exposing in a really good in a really good way that's helped me be more grateful and approach life a little differently now. So and Joseph really helped me out. I mean, just thinking about that story.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. And did you mention, did you have any professions between college and FCA?
Yeah, I mean, I had a business background, so I went into working with AT&T right out of college. Then from there, I started off as a retail sales rep, and then I went into the business department side of things. And then I think from there I was gearing towards the marketing and that side of. But that's at the same time I was having a conversation with FCA, so uh,
Yeah,
that's what my career should focus.
yeah, nice. Have you ever had experience yourself on the coaching side of things or just on the playing side of things?
I did. Now at the same time, working from college, like right when I was my senior year of college, that's when I began to take coaching I think, more seriously. I had already coached when I was coming out of high school into college, and that was junior football league in St. Louis, and that was track and field. And then as I became just more confident in my abilities to coach, I stepped into basketball. It wasn't something that I was familiar with. I mean, we play it, but to be able to coach it and really know the game, I didn't know the game. So I stepped outside my comfort zone and I started coaching middle school girls basketball
Yeah,
in Jeff City. And so, yeah, man, I think that really gave me a newfound respect for coaching and all that it entails and dealing with parents and I shouldn't say dealing with, but en- encountering and engaging with parents in a healthy. It's like, oh, yeah, parents. So if any parents are watching this, I mean, I'm that parent too with kids
yeah,
who've been in coaching, but sports. But yeah, so that was been my experience with coaching. Nothing past the middle school level.
right, right. Okay, very cool. And we'd love to ask you some coach specific questions because although you have that experience as a coach, I mean, coaching is leadership, and I know that's something you're passionate about. I know you love to see the vehicle of athletics being used to transform and impact lives. And so, with that said, I just would love to hear some piece of information you'd give to coaches. And so,
Yeah.
right off the bat, what sticks out to you as great things for any program to implement?
great things. Number one, build your program off of character. Don't build it off of I love the way FCA is partnered with 3D Institute and 3D coaching, thinking about the the physical, the mental, and then the holistic element, the three dimensions of a whole being of an athlete. And a lot of times we stick at that first dimension level of all physical. What can you do to grow and increase your strength, speed, bigger, faster, stronger, things like that. But if you focus on what drives an athlete internally and center your program from top down through what drives your athletes on a holistic and mental level, then the physical is almost like having a coach out there on the field or on the court, because they have the mindset now to conquer anything that they face, or even in how they receive criticism. So that just it takes the focus of your program to another level of maturation, that maturity process. So
Yeah.
yeah, build it off of character and
Yeah.
start there instead of what you can physically do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I know you mentioned the three dimensions, the third dimension being spiritual. What comes to your mind as just different ideas for how coaches can be a spiritual influence and impact on their athletes? How can they do that?
Number one, the way they lead through their lifestyle. How you they Most athletes will learn, and I would argue that most humans will learn from their interactions with you and the way you live. So what you say is confirmed by the way you live your life. Because you could say you shouldn't drink a lot of soda every day and you should eat the right foods, and then you go and do that, and it's a complete contradiction to what you're saying. So there's no validity, there's no credibility in taking that seriously. So I would say the number one thing a coach can do, and I know this may, so I think about it, well, what kind of position did I put Andy Reid in with the Chiefs?
Mm-hmm.
Coach, I need to see you out here running sprints. I need to see you out here. So not necessarily into that capacity, but if the coach leads himself with structure and having a plan for his day and being disciplined to being on time, these are valuable intangibles or things that the players can pick up on and adopt that into their lifestyle. And therefore they can be structured and they can have timeliness, and those things be highly valued and improve their performance on and off the court or field.
Yeah, yeah. I totally hear what you're saying there. And if you think about it, if we're on a journey, you can't necessarily lead very well to a land you've never been to before. So you have to have been there. You have to have led yourself first before you can do that for other people. What comes to mind as ways people can lead themselves spiritually?
To lead yourself spiritually, in my opinion,
Yeah.
number one would be if you're the spiritual guru at the table and you're the only one at the table, you need to bring others to the table who have more knowledge than you. Um, so it goes back to that accountability. You need to. I tell my children this: draft a team, and you literally sit down and you're going to conduct this draft, and you're going to think about all the ways you want to improve, and all those improvements become a position. And so if I want to improve in my mindset and have being stronger in my mind and not allow myself to succumb to depression or any negative thoughts, I'll get somebody that's amazingly strong with their mindset. They don't have to be physically strong, but they're great in that. And if I see that I'm really struggling with my physical fitness and my overall health, but this person is great at the way that they attack or approach their health, physical workout and routines and health regimen. So I literally go through and identify all the areas in my life that I want to improve in, and liken that to a position. And then I go in and draft, and I start writing down a list, and I go and recruit people to fill those slots. And as they come to the table, then I grow as a whole overall person. So I would just mimic that same model spiritually. What areas in my life am I struggling, or am I or wanting to improve in spiritually, and then recruit those people to the table, and then that will shape what I'm studying and what kind of resources I bring to the table to help me improve.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And as I, think about what you're saying there, in my life spiritually, there's someone in particular who does a really good job of scripture memorization, and that's a position I need in my life. That's something I want more of. And so to be around someone who's excelling, who can show you the way, like I mean, it definitely cuts your learning curve in half. It inspires you, it challenges you, it motivates you, and it lets you see that it's realistic. So I totally see what you're saying there. I love that.
Whenever you think about everybody throughout scripture, I think we can overcomplicate it. And you think about everybody had a mentor, everybody had someone. And I think about Christ. Christ was that for the disciples. So with all the questions and things that the disciples can think through, because I think people forget there are real people who don't know all the answers to everything, who get scared, who get fearful, and have all these thoughts that they can do some horrific things, as well as great. But in the brokenness and who we are as humans, having somebody to walk with is highly valuable to us improving spiritually and in every other area of life. So, I mean, I like to start with simplicity.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So as we just talked a little bit more about coaching, and we talked a little bit on the third dimension now, so that second dimension being mental, emotional. What are some activities you think coaches could implement to maybe develop those parts of their players?
Well, I think you just hit it right there. Getting those, what our team used to do, we used to engage in, I don't even know how you could normally say it was icebreakers or things like that, but it's another term to describe it. But you're going to do activities that won't rely on physical strength, but they'll rely on dependency. For instance, you put athletes in a situation where they're vulnerable, but they have to depend on their teammate. And this teammate, you could take the best athlete on the field with one of the least performing athlete on the field and pair them up together, and then give them a challenge where they have to depend on one another. And you talk about growing team camaraderie, unity, sacrifice. Those are some of those character building activities that I would like really kick off and make that an essential part of our program. And then at the start of the program, think about how you could pair maybe the captain of the team with somebody that you believe has leadership potential, and help and let that captain or whatever leader get that experience of growing by sharing their leadership and really living it out with somebody, so that they go through an experience in their life where they're better from it. And then they also, with that other person or other athlete, they're able to impact some leadership abilities in them. So I think it's a win-win when you think about those character building activities.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you yourself been able to be a part of any like particular activity that you've seen fruit from in particular?
Yeah, we did one. It was more related to just assumptions. I think it's really popular on YouTube and just socially. When you think about the climate on race and diversity and things like that, I got to do we all started at the 100-yard line on the field, and we were doing a racing to the other side of the field. But there were all these verbal commands that you could only run if you met certain criteria. So if you had two parents in a household, or if you had never missed a meal, or never worried about your bills being paid, or maybe if you were arrested or anything like that, your parent, anything, all those criteria, that really opened my mind to assumptions. I mean, even from my experience growing up, Black in St. Louis, coming out of what a lot of people say is the hood and things like that, I had all these preconceived notions. And so I would look at my counterparts and just assume that either nobody shared my experiences, or the people I thought didn't. So that opened my eyes to stereotypes and assumptions can be on all type of sides. And that was just a fun activity to really expose.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I would imagine that's a really good activity. And as you mentioned, part of the activity was asking a certain question and seeing what the response was. And I think realistically, if you're trying to build mentally, emotionally into your players, one thing that's going to unlock that right away is just the questions that you bring to the table, the opportunities that they have to answer certain things, and see how other people, their experience, their perspective, and likewise share theirs and build more commonalities. And I mean, honestly, embrace the differences as well. And so I think questions themselves are powerful. So even if you have a list of questions and you ask a few every practice, that's one way to start. So that just came to mind.
Yeah.
Would love to get back to just life questions in general. If someone, or what would be the greatest compliment someone can give you, just generally speaking?
That causes me to pause a minute. It would have to be for me anything related to selflessness. If they made a comment stating how selfless I am, I think for me that would be a heart tugger. I mean, because people can say, "Oh, man, you were great here," or "You're great doing this and that." And for me, a lot of things that come natural or some abilities that God has given me, I can tell whether or not I'm doing just enough to get by or I really bust my butt and worked in that. But if I'm dying of self and I've exhibited something that causes somebody to reflect on that, and it any way insinuates that I've been selfless, that's a win in my book because I don't want to be God in my life.
Yeah.
So surrendering to Him and allowing myself to be you. So that's it for me.
Let's go. That's awesome. And that is a great aim. I mean, you love your neighbor as yourself, consider others more important than yourself. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And so what better thing can we do than be selfless? I think that's a really good answer. What is something that you think you can improve on right now?
Right now, my mindset, realizing that I am a son of the Most High God and that my Father created everything and owns everything. So it's my mindset when it comes to walking in confidence. Whether I'm sharing the gospel with somebody who doesn't believe or know anything about God, or whether I'm talking to somebody who's a 50-year veteran, seasoned theologian in the faith, just to be confident in who God created me to be and what He wants me to share, and realizing that if He tells me to go do anything, especially within the ministry of FCA, asking has been one of those challenges for me. I've grown up thinking that when you have to ask for something, that's a sign of weakness. And I know scripture refutes it. My parent, my mom, I can hear her saying now, boy, or a coach. That probably the number one. But to think about going and being able to ask somebody for something, it almost puts you in a vulnerable state. And I don't want to be vulnerable. So therein lies the surrendering again. So when I think about that principle in its entirety, I want to trust that the Lord is giving me this confidence, and I'm moving in that lane so that I can ask with confidence, knowing whatever I'm asking for, or whatever I'm sharing, that He's already given me the victory. So
yeah, love it. What are you excited about with your family life right now?
I'm excited to watch the girls grow. And Trayvon, he had a baby, and so a lot of people are like, man, you a grandparent. I mean, a lot of things in our life are just I would say unordinary or extraordinary, thanks to God. But I mean, the girls right now, Anaya, she's already at basic training in South Carolina, and she's calling back home, and I didn't think that it would be a huge challenge for her, but she's calling back home excited, talking about how well she's doing.
Wow.
And, we're running here and I'm killing this and I'm doing all my push-ups here. And
go.
And so I think it's just cool to see that I leverage that coaching in everything, my parenting styles.
Yeah.
So to see her respond back through a letter saying thank you for helping me be tough and develop tough skin, was pretty rewarding. So I mean, family wise, just to see the kids mature into young men and women, I'm thankful that Michelle has helped me even comprehend what that even means and to see them grow. So
right.
yeah, that's what.
Yeah, praise the Lord. She's having a good time and she's excelling. And obviously, you know, as a parent, I'm sure that's so life-giving and rewarding and prideful moment for sure. But obviously, you know, praise the Lord for it.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned Trayvon has a kid. I think I briefly heard that. Is it boy or girl? How old?
Girl, her name is Journey,
Journey.
and she'll be coming up on 2 here in a couple
2.
months. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you officially grandpa then? What does she
And
call you?
yeah, you know what? With the unique dynamic of our family,
Yeah.
I don't know what title. I just I just step into the role. A lot of time that hat is blank, but I just put that hat on anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And how about on work life? What are you excited for?
I mean, I'm excited to like I talked about early on when we first started. My role is to staff the area and really build and develop the ministry out in Kansas City, especially and Wyandotte is my focus right now. So we got these different parts of the core: north, south, east, and west core. North core, and I kind of split that up by district. So you got the KCPS and KC charter schools. There's in the north core. You have primarily all of our private schools and like our Rockhurst and Center, Grandview, Hickman. Those southern schools. That's South Core. Then east is Raytown Independence. West is all Wyandotte. I call that the dot, baby. But that's all Wyandotte, and it's been challenging trying to be in all these places without having staff. And so I'm excited that I'm in the season right now where I've been praying that the Lord would bring people who He's called to this ministry at this season in their life that wants to see ministry to and through coaches and that are inspired or passionate about not skipping over a coach, but seeing the influence that a coach, recognizing that coach can make a world of a difference on a campus in a community. And so we can lead out through that. And I have identified several individuals, and we have 3 right now that are in the process of joining staff. So just to be in that season of life. I mean, I've been in this role going on 7 years now, and I've had 1 staff, and now we're on the verge of adding potentially 3 over these next 3 years. So that's huge, man. That's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, let's go. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's great. And I know a little while back you were sharing out of this particular book you're reading. And so I know from time to time you like to resource yourself. What are some book recommendations or resource recommendations you would have for other people?
Ooh, all in Mark Batterson. Man, yeah, that book really, woo, just like that. Sometimes you just gotta be like, yeah. And that's what that book did for me. It started out it's just like the intro to a great movie, action movie, and it just grabbed me and set me down and exposed me because he led out with Christ didn't call me to be safe. I'm not called by God to lead a safe life. And following the footsteps of Christ, he lived what we would call a dangerous lifestyle. It wasn't the cultural norm for somebody to walk around and profess all the things that Christ did and go against culture and even what we would call the theologians of that time, the church, and to stand firmly in it and to be crucified for it. When we think about what he really did, and we think about the heroes and like Iron Man, I don't want to spoil movie endings, but you see that hero die in a movie. I didn't say what movie. And it's like, man, they really gave themselves for the greater good of the purpose or the team. And that's what you see Christ do. And he did that on his way to his death and victory and rose again. So he's like, yeah, he's the hero and who's conquered the grave. But to realize that if I imitated that, that's going to make me not afraid to be in I guess volatile situations or to live on the edge. And I'm talking about we have missionaries who risk their lives to share the gospel, and people who go and I guess they subject themselves to situations that can be extremely uncomfortable and challenging. But God, they press through their faith in God and the confidence in what He'll do as He performs their work in them, completing the work through them.
Yeah.
That so all in Mark Batterson, all of that came from that. I gave a long story, man. It got me. You could tell it got me fired up. I was just thinking, man, I need to take this
Oh,
off
yeah.
to another level. So yeah, that's the book I
Yeah,
would recommend.
it's big time. I love it. Thank you for sharing there. Describe what your physical regimen entails.
5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, work. Those are grind days. Thursday is a rest day. Friday, Saturday, grind days. And I usually do Olympic lifting on Saturdays. And then Sunday is a rest day too. So Thursdays and Sundays are rest day. My wife and I, we work out together. We set our goals for the week. Well, we have 8-week cycles that we usually work in. We write down all of our training goals that we hit. So we got checkpoints and all of our nutrition goals that support that, and then the rest activities that help support that. So I mean, it gets pretty strategic around here in this camp because that's something we take pretty serious. But just getting that in at a minimum of an hour a day, getting the workout in, so that you got a lot to squeeze into that hour. You got to make it count.
Yeah. I love it. And obviously, like you mentioned, you're working towards something. How would you describe your optimal physical state? Like, what are you aiming towards?
Ooh, optimal for me is thinking about my body, not in just the context of how strong I am, but how well rounded I am. And I think it's more like that Iron Man type of mentality. In any situation, can I run, swim, bike, or push pull? I mean, be able to do things that um, that don't just rely on one physical ability or one strength.
Yeah.
So I want to be well rounded. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to uh, swim for a long time. And I'm just trying to think about anything that's thrown at me in life. I want to be able to put my body in a position to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, whatever that is, just to stay ready, stay active, stay healthy.
Yeah.
But it's overall health.
Yeah. I love that. You mentioned Olympic lifting is one day, and obviously you already touched on, you like to do some running, you like to do some swimming. Where do those fall in the week? And then like, how do you spend time working on those things?
Yeah, well, the way we work it out, I'm giving some of these secrets here. Let's see. The way we do it, we set our calendar around a series of checkpoints. So like this year, we'll have a powerlifting competition here in the summer. If with the pandemic and everything, it works out. But we usually set something that we can set our sights on that's going to challenge us to see how much progress we made in a certain area. So for instance, one year it's powerlifting, and the next summer or the next year, I'll sign up for a track meet. Yeah, even at going on 35, I'm still going to sign up for a track meet and live life and do something that maybe scares me a little, but it gives me a rush. But it also allows me to test out this newfound ability. Tough Mudder or obstacle courses, 5K runs.
Yeah.
That's something that we'll put on the calendar later in the year. And so as we break out those workouts throughout the week, it depends on whatever goal it is that we have at the end of that checkpoint 8-week cycle that we're working towards.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll shift our focus. So swimming, if right now I'm not swimming.
Yeah.
For one, it's super cold, so trying to get from back and forth. But that usually occurs on Saturdays or on the weekends. Once we get back into the routine of doing that, biking, that usually occurs on the weekends. Boxing, that's kind of sporadic. That's something that we want to incorporate throughout the week. Skipping or jumping rope, That's something that we do every day. And then running is something that we also incorporate at least 3 times a week. So
Yeah.
weightlifting every day, but it's different body parts.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So if you had to give a catch-all physical encouragement or advice to people, what would it be?
My advice would be we focus on optimal health physically, mentally, spiritually. So you can't have one without the others. And one of the requirements for us to complete a physical workout or go to the gym is that we've already fed ourselves spiritually and we fed our mindset. Because if those two lack, when I go to perform physically, I won't be able to have optimal performance because something in my mindset is lacking. And that's usually a sign that something in my spiritual life is lacking. So everything leads out from the spiritual realm. We are created in his likeness and image. So everything that we do as our complete vessel is to the glory of God. So
Yeah.
structure your physical or your, I would just say that your regimen health wise overall as to give God glory and honor him with this beautiful investment of a body that he's giving you. So treat that like it's an investment and he's getting dividends back from the way that you're treating it. So that's how I see our bodies, and I would encourage others to see themselves the same.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so I've got a few more questions here. What's one thing that your family does that's unique to your family that you think provides a lot of life for your family?
We like to get active in volunteering. So find ways to give back and get connected. I challenge each of our children as well as some of my external family members. If you have the opportunity, time, talent, and treasure, but time being the most valuable of them all. We know that it takes resources for people to like do some of the nonprofit ministries and organizations and things. So that's one of the things that easily becomes the staple of people's um, goals is to give other resources. But we're firm believers that if you give of your time and then invest your talent into that, with your time, you're going to develop relationships, and those relationships are priceless. And so we found that if we stopped at just giving financially, or whether it be
Mm.
food drives or coats, that's great. I'm not knocking that or I'm not putting that down. But we found that that's the first step. And where we want to go to the top of that mountain is to spend time and gain relationships and be in relationship with individuals. So that's one thing our family does, and we put that on the calendar once a month.
Yeah.
Volunteer and serve, whether that go out to feed the homeless or those who may be in need, or there's a couple of shelters around. So there's ample opportunities and organizations that are serving in the community. So even with being in FCA and being a minister in the gospel and all of that, still go out and find a way to get active and get connected. So
Yeah.
that's what our
Yeah.
family does.
Love it. And when you talk about your relationship with God, what did your life look like before that really began and took off?
It was rough. Survivor mentality really only depend on myself. Some of the things that I've experienced in my life, traumatizing, and you grew up and that became the norm. And that was from my environment. There were some things that happened to me, so um, it can be violent, abuse, and I suffered from all of that. So I learned only to depend on myself and never to depend on God because He allowed me to be in those situations. So I blamed Him in essence in my early state for those things. And if He loved me, why would He allow those things to happen? And then I had the revelation that um, even in the midst of everything that I faced, that the Lord was still with me, and that the sin nature of our world would be responsible for authoring a lot of the problems that I face and challenges, and that He gave me a way out, and through um, bloodshed and His love for me. And so when I recognized that love was being made readily available for me every single day, covering me and keeping me, and I mean just spiraling down into like drunken and drugs and gang life and thing like that's not who I was raised. And anybody who would tell you that's not who Alex is, and would be surprised if to learn that some of the things that I allow myself to venture off into. But I spiraled fast and hard to the point of what's the point of living anymore? And I was even bold about I can die in these things, in these areas of my life, and I'm prideful enough to say that I don't care. This is what I'll die for. And then I realized that I was living for the wrong reason and for the wrong source. So that I surrendered my life to the Lord, and He literally saved my life in situations that could have ended by gun violence and a whole sort of other things. In my community, becoming that statistic is the thing that we fear. But I surrendered my life, and He saved my life. He saved my life, not in the context of I thought differently. He literally snatched me from situations where I could have been killed, and put me on another path. But I had to surrender, and I asked Him for His help, invited Him in, and that path towards following Him every day. It didn't just happen overnight where I became this new man, but I realized that I'm this new creation, and it's Christ that's living in me. So I can see progress over the years. So that's kind of what happened for me, from a complete 180 perspective.
Right. Yeah. What was that aha moment for you where things clicked, where you were able to surrender as you're talking about? What was that for you?
Yeah, really, that for me, I was living with my wife. It was my girlfriend at the time, and I got into some rough situations. And it was one of the nights where some gun violence and some stuff was happening. And I'm just saying that so that I don't know who's all watching, and I want to keep it kid friendly, but some rough things were happening that night. And the way I wanted to respond would have been equally or greater in terms of being negative and in a horrible way to respond. My wife's mother at the time spoke life into me, and she forced me to stay in the basement of her house, lock the door, and that was my one-on-one time to really vent and let out everything, because I was really angry at that time. And as I began to plead, I realized that through a conversation with her, she said the way I was living my life, I was wasting my influence. And then a follow-up conversation I had with my wife now, she was upset with me, and she told me that I wasn't living to my full potential. And that's what clicked for me. And I was thinking, like, how can she challenge what my potential? And right then and there, I wanted a taste of what that was. What would it be like? I given up. What would it be like to live life to my full potential? And that's what clicked for me. And I knew that I couldn't accomplish that without God. So in order to accomplish whatever my potential was, He was the author of Alex Campbell. He was the creator of me. And I needed Him to fulfill whatever that potential was. And that's where it was.
Yeah, that's really good. And I totally resonate with what you're saying and agree. I'm sure that's why you believe that, God is for everyone. He desires a relationship for everyone, and everyone has the ability to step into that. Is there anything else you would add there as to why God is for everyone?
Yeah, I would just say I believe that the majority of us, or if not all of us, are searching for satisfaction or fulfillment. And there's nothing in this world that can quench our thirst. Nothing. And that eternal living water was offered to us by the Messiah, and Jesus Christ. And I mean, I know that now, even that name can be a deterrent for many people, based on the pronunciation and how you say it. But through all the different versions of that name, that is the salvation, that gift back to getting that fulfillment that's brewing on the inside of you. So I firmly believe that most are searching in this life for fulfillment and satisfaction. And the only way that they'll accomplish that is through a relationship, through Jesus Christ, to our Heavenly Father.
Yep, I agree with you. He is the unshakable rock, and everything else in this life, although enticing and although momentarily satisfying, will inevitably fall short, will inevitably lead to death. And he is the only thing that is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So thank you for sharing on that. Yeah, we're coming up on our time, but would love to close out with a few simple questions, kind of one word responses. First thing that comes to mind. So some of your favorites, who's your favorite athlete?
Let's go Ray Lewis.
Okay, nice. Do you have a favorite professional coach? Probably Tony Dungy, I don't know.
Tony Dungy.
Nice. Is there a second, or is he the one?
He's the one.
Yeah, yeah. Love it. And do you have a favorite vacation spot?
I'm gonna say Greece, but haven't been.
Oh.
In my mind, yeah, I want to say Greece, but right now I'll say California. My wife loves it. California.
Love it. So when are you planning to go to Greece? How far out is that?
Greece, we're looking at maybe next year. Things clear up. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Nice. That'll be awesome. Favorite movie or TV show?
The Last Samurai for a movie.
Okay. Nice. Favorite restaurant to go on a date with Michelle?
Summit Grill.
Summit Girl?
Yep.
Where is that at?
We have one. I think there are several locations. One in Lee Summit, one on here in Waldo. I think it's right on 75th.
Nice. Last question. I know you typically get, how much water do you get in a day?
Close to 3 gallons.
There we go. Do you have a favorite refreshing beverage other than the gallons of water, or is that it?
Say that again.
Favorite refreshing beverage? Is it water or is it something else?
Oh, it's only water. Yeah.
Only water. Boom. Love it. Glad the water jug was readily available. Had to be, right?
Yeah.
Sweet, Alex. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight, perspective, wisdom. It was a lot of fun.
And I appreciate you, brother. Got to do this again sometime.
Of course.